everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm starting a very exciting reading vlog and I'm calling it Reading Blank Genre Recommendations. So I'm sure that you've seen people on BookTube recommending like lists of books in a particular genre. I know I've seen YA fantasy recommendations. I've seen people recommending like fantasy for beginners or horror for beginners. I've seen middle grade recommendations. I mean, you can pretty much search anything. Like you could go to YouTube and search adult romance recommendations and someone will have posted a video recommending a list of romance books that they liked. I thought it would be fun to start kind of like a series on my channel where every month or maybe like every other month or something, I will pick someone's video recommendations and read books that they've recommended. Recently, Gabby from Gabby Reads posted a horror recommendations video, and I thought this would be perfect because the Horror in 24 starts today actually and runs until August 3rd, which happens to be my birthday. So happy early birthday to me. And I'm very excited because horror is a genre that I've really wanted to get into. And honestly, it's kind of funny because I absolutely do not like horror movies. I don't like being jump scared. But when it comes to books, I absolutely love horror books. I love being scared and like creeped out. So we are going to read some horror books this month. So in that video, Gabby actually Gabby actually recommended 12 books. Of those 12 books, I have read 2 of them. I have read Salem's Lot by Stephen King, and I have read Bird Box by Josh Malerman, I believe is the author's name. So there are 10 books left for me to choose from. She also recommended 3 other Stephen King novels. So I decided to just pick one of them that I was most interested in. And the one that I picked happened to be Pet Sematary by Stephen King. Mainly because I already owned that book, so that's one book I didn't have to buy. But during this vlog, I am going to attempt to read all of the other ones as well. So I'm going to attempt to read The Troop, Cabin at the End of the World, Pet Sematary, Imaginary Friend, Bunny, A Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and Home Before Dark. Hi, this is editing me from the future to let you know that somehow A Cabin at the End of the World didn't end up on any of my TBR lists, even though Gabby did recommend it. So I do still want to read it, but unfortunately it will not be in this vlog, so sorry. I've ordered some to come in, but right now the first book I have here is going to be Pet Sematary by Stephen King.
My personal favorite is Pet Sematary. Pet Sematary is the only 5-star book I've given to Stephen King, and Pet Sematary is great because it really plays on your real life fears.
So I got some more books for my Gabby recommendations video. I got Bunny by Mona Awad. Very excited and intrigued to read this one. I got The Troop by Nick Cutter. Imaginary Friend by Stephen Chbosky, which is huge, so we might be putting that one off till the end, who knows. And the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix, which I'm also excited about. So I can't wait. I don't know which one I'm going to read next. It'll be just like a surprise. Good morning. It is Wednesday, July 15th. I have read quite a bit more of Pet Sematary. I am on page 230 and I just got to part 2. And so far I'm really enjoying it. Nothing overly terrifying has happened. There has been quite a few like creepy moments, but nothing really scary. and I want to be scared. And I think I'm going to try to finish it today because we're already on day like 4 of this challenge, and I've got at least 4 more books to read. Hello. It is, what time? I don't know what time it is, actually. I just finished Pet Sematary by Stephen King, and it was a lot of fun. I have an entire reading vlog dedicated to this book, so I'm not going to go into my thoughts in this video, mainly because this is already going to be a super long video, so because I have tons of other books to read. But I did end up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to go right to sleep after reading this book. So I might start a new one, which, that being said, they're all horror books. Okay, well, this is an awkward position. You can even see my new washer dryer over there that I got today. It is a new day. It's actually in the evening now. It's like 6, 7 something. I don't know what time it is. But last night I did end up picking up Bunny by Mona Awad.
Bunny by Mona Awad, and this one is one of those horror novels that, like, I wouldn't just go around recommending this to anyone because this book is very weird. It's probably the weirdest horror book on this whole list, and I kind of feel like this book almost feels like literary fiction at times or something like that, just because it's written so beautifully, but it's also just so weird.
I can honestly say I am thoroughly confused and highly enjoying this book. I am right at 100 pages in. I have no idea what's going on. So far, what I know is, and I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but so far, there are these 4 girls who all call each other Bunny, and then there's this other girl who's our main character, and they are in a writing workshop together. So it's the 4 Bunny girls and her. And the 4 girls kind of start bringing her into their friend group and start calling her Bunny. And then weird things start happening. Even if I was like going to spoil this and tell you what was happening, I don't even think I could. Because I honestly have no idea what's happening. Good morning. It is now Friday, July something. And I just finished Bunny. Last night I got up to part 3, which is somewhere. And then I woke up this morning and just finished it. It was so good and so weird. I still don't entirely know what happened. I loved the way it was written, like the writing style was very different from anything I've ever read before, but I really enjoyed it. And I really want to read other books by her. I will say this is definitely horror, but it's also very, like, there's definitely like fantasy or paranormal elements in this book, 100%. So you should be aware of that going in. Something I do want to point out that I have not heard mentioned by anyone is that there are quite a few content warnings in here. There is drug abuse, alcohol abuse, there is cutting or self-harm, and like murder. Oh, and animal abuse. It's not that much later, but reading Bunny kind of made me feel like I was in a fog. Like, reading Bunny felt like my head was in the clouds and my brain was full of cotton, and I was just trying to walk through the fog without getting lost. That's what reading Bunny felt like. I don't know what it's like to be high, but I have a feeling it's something like that. I just need to read something that makes me feel a little more normal. And I decided that it's time. It's time to just jump in and get it over with. I'm going for the biggest one I've got. Imaginary Friend. We're just gonna do it.
Imaginary Friend by Chbosky. And this book completely took me by surprise with how much I loved it. This book is over 700 pages. It's freaking massive. But honestly, it's so good. And I will say the first 500 pages of this book are where the money's at. Like, the first 500 pages of this book are amazing, god tier 5 stars. And then like the last 200 pages are like, meh, it might bring your rating down a little bit.
Okay. I just reached part 2, which is chapter 7, page 51. And so far, I absolutely love Christopher, our main character, and I don't know how it's going to I don't know what's going to happen in the rest of the book. Because up to this point, this is all I knew about it. I knew it was about a little boy who struggled with school, math, reading, that kind of thing. And then he disappears into the woods for 6 days, and he comes back, and he's changed. That's literally all I know. So we have gotten to the point where I know nothing else about this book. I'm really interested to see what happens. I will say, I don't know if it's the writing style or if it's just like my mindset at the moment, but I'm struggling to read more than a chapter at a time, and the chapters aren't even very long. Like, this is chapter 7 right here, so it's literally like 2.5 pages. So they're not very long chapters, but for some reason, like, I just lose focus after 1 to 2 chapters, and I don't know why. So I'm hoping that changes and that I get sucked into this and can't put it down, because this is a long book to be reading a couple pages at a time and then setting it down each time. Hello, it is like 1 o'clock or something. I don't know. I don't know when I last filmed an update for this video, but it's now Monday, so I'm pretty sure it's been at least a couple days. But I've been reading, goodness, Imaginary Friend by Chbosky, and I absolutely love the beginning. I really enjoyed the beginning, especially the first 100 or so pages. I thought it was really intriguing. I thought the atmosphere was really creepy, and the story was very entertaining. And I love the main character, Christopher. I think he is the sweetest child. And if we had a story with just him and his mother and their relationship, I would read the heck out of that, because I absolutely love their relationship. I am currently like a third of the way through. Let me see if I can. Yeah. I'm about a third of the way through. I'm on page 273. And I'm not hating it. That's my washer. But I'm not hating it. But I'm really bored. I don't care about any of the other character point of views. Like, we get so many different point of views, and some characters we get like I'm not going to say it's a throwaway point of view, but it's like a character, well, they'll have one chapter in their point of view, and that's literally it. And I don't really understand the point of that yet. I'm assuming there is a point but I don't know. I'm struggling to get through it. I read like one chapter. Like I struggle to read one chapter, which is saying a lot considering they're only like 4 or 5 pages each. They're really short chapters, and a lot happens in each chapter, but it's like I don't care enough to want to just sit and read like I normally do. What you doing? Hi. So I finished Imaginary Friend, and now we're going to talk about it. So I'm going to talk major spoilers of this book. I'll put spoiler on here somewhere, so if you don't want to be spoiled for it, skip this part. But I have a lot to talk about. I even took notes because we need to have a discussion. If you don't know what this is about a boy who I believe is 7 years old. Christopher and his mother are running away from her abusive ex-boyfriend, and they go to live in this town called Millgrove, Pennsylvania. And in this town, there are these woods called the Mission Street Woods. And 50 years ago, another little boy named David Olson went into the woods and was never seen from again. He completely disappeared. And then, so this book takes place 50 years after that, when Christopher and his mom moved there. And one day, while he's waiting for his mom from school, he goes into the woods and disappears for 6 days. And then he just randomly stumbles out on the last day. And besides being, malnourished, dehydrated, he's perfectly fine, except he's suddenly a genius. Throughout this book, Christopher is trying to build this tree house. And we don't know why he's building the tree house, but all we know is that when he's not building the tree house, he gets these horrible headaches, and all he wants to do, all of his focus is on building this tree house. And while he's building the tree house, he starts developing these abilities to kind of read people's minds, or I think it's more like he sees the truth between the words, I think is kind of how it's explained. So, like, he just knows people's darkest secrets or something. I didn't really fully understand the powers, except for, like, the end. I guess he can't, well, he didn't really need them in the end. So we find out that the reason he's getting these powers is because this man, who I'm assuming is the imaginary friend, but he calls him the nice man, only he can see him or hear him. And this man tells Christopher that he has been given these powers to kill the hissing lady, who is this evil woman, and set him free, set the nice man free. So I love this book. The first 100 pages, I was so sucked into this book. I was so ready for it. I thought this was going to be amazing. There were so many creepy moments where I was literally it gave me the chills. And I loved it. And I love the mystery of David, trying to figure out what happened to him. And then we find out that David's soul is in the imaginary world. And the treehouse that Christopher has been building is a portal into the imaginary world. And even at this point, I was sold. This is awesome. We're going to find out what happened to David. But then the middle, 200 to 300 pages was so repetitive, so slow. I mean, we got little pieces of the mystery, just enough to keep it going. But honestly, I felt like a lot of it could have been cut out. And yeah, I don't know. It was really slow in the middle. But the ending is where I had so many issues with the ending. The ending just dropped the ball completely. I was so ready for this amazing plot twist of an ending, which, don't get me wrong, there's definitely a plot twist, but it definitely wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So it turns out that the imaginary world is basically hell. The hissing man is trapped in hell. At least that's what he tells Christopher. The hissing man, or not the hissing man, I'm sorry, the nice man is trapped in hell by the hissing lady. And so Christopher is trying to help him escape by killing the hissing lady. And David is giving them clues, like little help throughout, because David is basically trapped by the hissing lady, or like her pet. Wedding, probably shouldn't have put on long sleeves for this. The plot twist that we get is when we get David's diary, and David's diary leads them to, there's a secret message hidden in the diary, and that leads them to a note that he leaves his brother. And this note says, do not kill the hissing lady. Hold on. The note says, do not kill the hissing lady. She is the only thing keeping the devil in hell. And I was ready for that. I was like, I love that plot twist. And what's funny is I didn't even consider that plot twist because she's so evil. Like, everything she does just feels evil and horrible. And it looks like she is torturing all these people. But it turns out she's not torturing anybody. The nice man is torturing everybody, because the nice man is actually the devil who's trying to escape to the real world through Christopher's portal. But then it kind of goes into a lot of really religious comparisons, and that's where I was kind of like, no, I don't like this. And they weren't even like, in my opinion, they weren't even solid comparisons. It was more like it just took pieces of religion that it being the book, it took pieces of religion and just kind of mixed them all together. And I was questioning everything because I was really confused. We get to the part where Christopher finally tells his mother, and I thought it was she believed him too easily, but again, that goes back to my love of their relationship, so I can't really argue with that because their relationship is so good that it didn't take much convincing to believe him. So at first I didn't like that, but now I'm okay with it. So his mother believes, and she's trying to help them escape, but the nice man is blocking every attempt at escaping. Like, there's no way he is going to get out. So he figures out he's going to have to confront the nice man. Like, there's no other helping it. And at this point, Christopher has used so much of his powers that he's extremely weak, because every time he uses his powers in the real world or goes to the imaginary world, it weakens his body. It's almost like his mind is really powerful, but his body can't handle all of the power, and so it's like deteriorating the more he uses it. Basically, the whole town is now at this treehouse. They've all gone insane. They're like sewing each other's mouths closed and their eyes closed, which is disturbing and creepy in itself, but the imagery was pretty cool. For a horror, the nice man basically tells him, either you come back and give me the key to escape, or I will kill your mother. He does. He kills his mother, which I think, what did I write? Oh, I wrote this right here. This was where his mom dies, and I wrote, seriously, you just had to do it, didn't you? So Christopher ends up using what is left of his powers to heal her, and then he goes into the tree, the portal. And it turns out that when Christopher healed her, he actually gave her all of his godly powers. So she, while the nice man is like getting ready to kill him, she bursts through this portal. All badass mom. I loved it. Yes, my favorite part. Christopher is telling the nice man that he can't kill the hissing lady anymore like he wants him to, because he doesn't have his godly powers. And the nice man says, well, what is it? And he said, I gave it away. Or he said, I gave it away to someone much more powerful than you. And the nice man says, more powerful than me? Who is it, God? And Christopher says, no sir, God's mother. And then his mom burst through the tree portal. Oh, I love that part so much. The first thing I questioned was they made a reference to the tree. So once you get into the imaginary world, there is a tree that you use a key to like unlock the portal to both sides. And there's a reference that the tree is the tree of knowledge. At this point, we've had a lot of talk about religion, and we're talking about the devil and how the imaginary world is hell, and then they talk about this tree of knowledge, and I think, well, are they in Eden? But that wouldn't make sense because that would mean Eden is hell according to this. So I was a little confused, but then a little farther in, we're talking about the hissing lady. And this is when we find out that she's not the devil, she's the good person. Because it says, God had a son who served on earth. They're talking about Jesus. And then it says, but he also had a daughter, and she volunteered to serve here. So we're talking about, this is saying the hissing lady is Jesus's sister who volunteered to go to earth or go to hell to keep the devil from escaping. That's what we're talking about. Just throw that out there for you. It gets even better because at the end, oh, hold on, before I get to that part. While his mother is battling the nice man, Christopher is being chased by all of his like minions, his army. And while he's running, he runs into his dad's soul who killed himself. And that's when Christopher realizes that they're not actually all trapped there by the nice man. They're all trapping themselves there because like they're all being controlled by the string, but they're the only ones that have hold of the string. And so he just says, he like holds the string to his mouth like a telephone string and just says, you are now free. And then it like goes through the string, so every person that's being trapped there hears it and they're like, oh, I'm free now. And so they all release their strings and start cutting the strings off their mouth and eyes so they can actually see and hear. I didn't fully get all of that, but they all start ascending to heaven, and each soul that ascends to heaven decreases the nice man's powers. If we're going with the whole religion thing, that's not how it works. You don't just go from hell to heaven, but you know, we're already way off the religion train. Christopher and his mom escape the imaginary world and they lock the devil inside, and so he's trapped there by himself with the hissing lady who has regained her powers somehow. And I thought, okay, well we're basically at square one. The hissing lady is still there. God's daughter is still there to keep him at bay. But then she also ascends to heaven. Okay, so who's going to keep the devil at bay now? We don't know. We don't care, because all we care about is what happens at the end, after she ascends to heaven. She approaches her father's house, so God's house in heaven, and she says, I'm sorry for what I did. He says, I know you are. I'm sorry too. She says, I love you, Father. He says, I love you too, Eve. Welcome home. So they were in Eden, and Eden was hell, and God's daughter is Eve, who is Jesus' sister. But does that make the nice man Adam? Does that make the devil Adam? I don't even know. I mean, the very last thing that actually happens is Mary Catherine has her son, and it's still assumed that she was a virgin, so Virgin Mary has a son, yay. I can't even think about that part, because I'm stuck on the fact that Eve is God's daughter, who is Jesus' sister, who married Adam, and the hell, or Eden is hell, and Adam might be the devil, or the devil is Adam. I don't know. I'm confused. But one thing's for sure, I will be thinking about that ending for a really long time. But anyway, I started the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires.
The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. But this one was really, really fun. It's really, really creepy. It has to deal with vampires and a book club in the 90s. This one had a lot of different scenes that were so graphic and detailed that they're just burned into my brain forever.
I'm on page 26, so nothing has happened so far. But I just had to talk about Imaginary Friend before my mind exploded. So I'll update you more on this once I've read more. Okay, so hopefully this steady. Okay, I just got to page 240, so I'm over halfway through the book now. And we just got to the 3-year time skip or whatever. But I am struggling so hard to finish this book, to even continue reading this book right now, because I'm so angry. I just want to scream. Hello, good morning. I don't know what time it is actually, so who knows, but it is now Saturday. My days are all running together, but it's been a little bit since I've updated, but I did finish the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and so far this is my least favorite, and it's hard to rate this book, to be honest, because the whole time I was reading it, I felt like the book was confused as to what genre it was supposed to be. So most of my feelings while reading most of it was that it was just a contemporary, well, I guess it would be historical fiction because it's 1993, but like how historical is that? But anyway, doesn't matter. And then it was like the author suddenly remembered that it was supposed to be a horror, and so he would throw something horror into it. And I mean that was okay, but then, you know, if you saw that clip of me completely freaking out about how angry I was about halfway through, or like a little more than halfway through, I almost did not finish the book. I actually had to take an entire day off of reading this book, but I picked it up last night, just finished it, and yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna rate it yet. It was just weird. And excitingly, yesterday I also got the last book I needed for this challenge, The Cabin at the End of the World.
Another horror novel that's kind of like horror/thriller that's also one of my all-time favorites is The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. This one can be seen as more of a thriller, I guess, but it is very horror as well. Like, there's some very horrific aspects of this story.
But I also had the audiobook for this checked out of my library, and so I listened to it yesterday morning while I was working, and I finished it because it's super short. At first, I was going to rate this one pretty low, but then I realized it was because I would not necessarily call this a horror. It's definitely suspenseful, maybe a little thrillery, not really, but like maybe just a little bit. And it was more of like a weird suspense that made you think a lot. I do want to go back and actually read it physically because I think I would get more out of it physically reading it. But if I put aside the fact that it's not really a horror, I think I'm going to end up giving this 4 stars. That being said, I'm not entirely sold on that rating yet, and I might end up physically reading it before giving it a final rating. So, that being said, I only have one book left to read, and that's The Troop by Nick Cutter.
To begin, we're gonna start with probably my favorite book on this whole list, and that is The Troop by Nick Cutter. And this one is so freaking creepy. It's probably the scariest book that I've ever read, but maybe not in the way that you might think, because this book involves a lot of body horror and a lot of something is under your skin kind of vibes that is just very scary.
I am both very excited and very nervous about this one because this was her favorite on the list of recommendations, and I saved it to last because I thought that it would be my favorite, but now I'm kind of nervous that I am putting too many expectations on it.
The air crackled, full of static. Real friends wouldn't leave you. Sorry, Eve, but that's the truth. Would you have left, Shell? Silence again. Then, I'm not really a friend, Eve, am I? Ephraim stared at his pointer finger, the milky crescent under the nail, the lunate, that part is called. How did you know that? No, Shell.
Hello? Wow, that was really loud. Okay, so I finally finished reading all of my books. So at the beginning of this video, let me think. There were 12 recommendations on her channel. I'd already read 2 of them. There were 3 or 4 Stephen King recommendations, but I picked one. The only book that I planned on reading but wasn't able to read was Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, and that's because I wasn't able to get that. I actually don't think it came out at the end of June, but I'm getting it from Book of the Month, and that I won't get that until August. So that's the only one I was not able to read this month. The first book I read was Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed this. It was definitely creepy, had some very supernatural fun elements. It also talked a lot about grief and morality, kind of. So while I enjoyed it, it wasn't as creepy and scary as I wanted it to be, but there's an entire reading vlog dedicated to this book, so I will link that somewhere. The next book I read was Bunny by Mona Awad. Really enjoyed this. So I've heard, or Gabby has described it as Mean Girls written by Stephen King, and I can definitely see that. It definitely has Mean Girl vibes, but it's like Mean Girls if they were a cult. Then I read Imaginary Friend by Chbosky, and I kind of went on a whole little rant on this one, so you pretty much know my thoughts. Oh, I gave this one 4.5 stars. I ended up giving Imaginary Friend 3.5 stars. Overall, I really enjoyed it. The ending, I'm not going to go into what I thought about the ending because I've already done that, but I did enjoy it. Then I listened to The Cabin at the End of the World via audiobook, and this one was hard for me to rate at first because it's not really horror, in my opinion. I wouldn't classify it as a horror. It's definitely suspenseful and a tiny bit thrillery, but not really. It's mostly suspense, and it really makes you think. Like, nothing really horror-y happens. So when I first read it, I was going to give it a low rating because of that, because I was thinking, in my head, I was thinking horror, and it's not. However, after thinking about it and what it actually is about and what it's trying to say and how it made me think about it for, you know, a while after, I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Oh, I actually read this one before the Cabin at the End of the World, but I read the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and this one, I have a lot of thoughts about this one. It definitely had some horror moments, but it felt more like a contemporary historical fiction with random kind of pointless horror moments. It was like we took 2 different books and smashed them together. I don't know. And you just saw me finish The Troop by Nick Cutter. I half listened to this, half read it physically. The audiobook for this one was actually really good. That's why I ended up listening to it more than I originally expected to. This book is definitely horror. It's also very disturbing, disgusting, very gory, very descriptive. This book has everything that you could imagine. Oh, like there were moments when I was reading this book and I had to put it down because I was just like, ugh. If you are sensitive to animal abuse, if you are sensitive to gory, like really descriptive talks of death and blood and wounds and things like that, you may not want to read it. If you have a sensitive stomach for gore, I would not read this book. To kind of close out this vlog, I thought it would be fun to rank them. So I'm going to do it 2 different ways. The first way I'm going to rank it is like fear factor. So like least scary to scariest. So the least scariest would be The Cabin at the End of the World. Again, I don't really feel like it's very horror. And then let me think. Oh gosh. So then I guess the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires would be next. And then we have Pet Sematary. Actually, no. I'm going to put Pet Sematary here. And then the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Then we have Bunny. Imaginary Friend, and The Troop. So these are my ranking, to me, this is according to me, of least scary to scariest. So there we go. Now let's rank it from least favorite to favorite. So the one I enjoyed the least was the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. The next one, let's see. I'm going to say Pet Sematary. And I know that this is probably very unpopular opinion to put Pet Sematary so low, but really I highly enjoyed all of the books except for this one. So really, like, it would be like down here. Like, this one doesn't even deserve to be on the page. So, and then Cabin at the End of the World would be next. Imaginary Friend by Chbosky. The Troop. And Bunny is definitely my favorite. So this is my ranking from least favorite to favorite. I don't know what this video was trying to prove. I was reading Gabby's horror recommendations. So does she have good taste in horror? I would say yes. She does have good taste in horror. I say a lot of our opinions align. So like we have pretty much the same thoughts on this one. We had a lot of the similar thoughts on Imaginary Friend. I kind of had a little more rant about it. We both thought Bunny was very weird and very good. Those are all the books I read for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like. I hope to do more of these where I pick a random booktuber's stack of recommendations and just read books. So, yeah. I'll see you next time. Bye.